What she loved best, though, was the dormer window that gave a panoramic view of Cork harbour. Despite her mother offering to make her curtains, she preferred the inky sky at night with its twinkling stars and the bright morning sunshine to waken her. She would sit for hours by the window, in the frayed royal blue Queen Anne chair that she had liberated from Henry's former office. It had been his favourite, and was the one he had died in. She would watch the comings and goings of the port below, as she'd done all her life, and she would read and read for hours. She had already decided what and where she wanted to study, classics at Trinity College in Dublin. The university had been in existence since 1592, its charter granted by the unmarried woman, Queen Elizabeth I. Yet women had only recently been admitted to that seat of learning. The previous provost had said a female would enter the college over his dead body. He had died in 1904, and now Harp could apply. She wouldn't enjoy the same privileges as her male counterparts, but at least she could study. She could have chosen medicine or law, but she loved the ancient Greeks and Romans and decided she would get a degree in the languages, literature, and history of those cultures first. Her plan was to become a teacher, possibly at a third-level institution, ideally one that taught women. That way she could travel during the school holidays. Her mother had assumed Harp would be happy to go to Queen's College in Cork, so Harp had decided to say nothing and apply to Trinity once she'd matriculated and see what happened. The college might refuse her, and then the worry she would inevitably cause her mother would have been for nothing. She had, however, confided her plans to John Joe, and was dying to hear what he had to say. The teenage boy had been illiterate when he'd stayed at the Cliff House on his way to America, but Harp had taught him his letters, and they'd had an unending stream of correspondence over the past 4 years. They told each other everything. Nothing was off limits. He wrote about how his Uncle Pat was a character and a great friend and financial supporter of John Devereaux, the Irish rebel in exile in America. He told her how he had become his Aunt Cathy's son in a way he could never have imagined, and how they loved each other. He'd mentioned his first girlfriend, a redhead called Aaron O'Malley from Dorchester Street, who had never set foot in Ireland, but was, he joked, more Irish than either him or Harp. That relationship didn't last long. John Joe thought she was being pushed on him in order to form a closer bond between her father, Ernie O'Malley, and Uncle Pat. Anyway, she wasn't his type, he explained. She wondered what his type was. She tried to picture him now. When she'd last seen him, he was a skinny boy with sticking-up hair and a face of freckles. She'd imagined him as just a bigger version of that. In her last letter, she'd sent him a photo of herself that she had had taken at the mobile studio that sometimes came to take pictures of people as they left Ireland. She hadn't looked too awful in it, she hoped. Sitting comfortably in the Queen Anne chair, the afternoon sun warming her through the glass, she quickly checked through the first 2 letters, saving John Joe's until last. The first was from a recent guest, excitedly telling her about their first day in America, and the second was from Eleanor Kind, an elderly lady who had been summoned to San Francisco by her brother because he decided she could no longer live alone on her County Sligo farm. Eleanor had been heartbroken at the thought of leaving her animals. She had a special way with them, and in the end she decided she would defy her brother. She gave her ticket to Molly O'Brien and stayed in Ireland to run a little veterinary surgery. Finally, she opened John Joe's unusually bulky letter and realised to her delight that it contained a photograph. It must have been of him, but it showed only the faintest trace of the John Joe she knew. It was black and white, so she couldn't see his exact hair colour, only that it was fair and cut in a very nice style, longish on top and neatly trimmed at the sides. He still had his freckles, but they seemed less obvious now, and his teeth were perfectly white and straight, not crooked as she remembered. He wore an open-necked shirt, and he'd filled out. She thought he looked really handsome. No wonder Erin O'Malley had eyes for him. She wondered if he'd kissed her. Probably. America was much more easygoing about things like kissing, she decided. She gazed at his mouth in the picture, his perfect Cupid's bow lips, and she found herself wondering what it would be like to kiss him. Though she was alone, she blushed, hardly the reaction of a modern woman who only moments ago had scandalised her mother with talk of Fanny Hill. But the books were one thing. Real life was something entirely different.